documentary on the threats faced by Africa's national parks due to climate change and large-scale infrastructure projects. Africa's national parks, home to thousands of wildlife species such as lions, elephants, and buffaloes, are increasingly threatened by below-average rainfall and new infrastructure projects, stressing habitats and the species that rely on them. A prolonged drought in much of the continent's east, exacerbated by climate change, and large-scale developments, including oil drilling and livestock grazing, are hampering conservation efforts in protected areas, several environmental experts say. The at-risk parks stretch all the way from Kenya in the east, home to Tsavo and Nairobi national parks, south to the Mkomazi and Serengeti parks in Tanzania, the Kwarimbas and Gorongosa parks in Mozambique, and the famous Kruger National Park in South Africa, and west to the Kahuzi-Biega, Salonga, and Virunga reserves in Congo. An estimated 38% of Africa's biodiversity areas are under severe threat from climate change and infrastructure development, said Ken Mwath of BirdLife International. Key biodiversity areas over the years, especially in Africa, have been regarded by investors as idle and ready for development. Governments allocate land in these areas for infrastructural development. The proposed East African oil pipeline, for example, which the Ugandan government says can help lift millions out of poverty, runs through Uganda's Kadipo Valley, Murchison Falls, and Bwindi impenetrable forest, threatening species and drawing criticism from climate campaigners. The growth of urban populations and the building that goes with it, like new roads, electricity grids, gas pipes, ports, and railways, have also added to the pressure on parks, conservationists said. But they add that replacing wildlife with infrastructure is the wrong approach for economic growth. Most of Africa's wildlife parks were created in the late 19th and early 20th centuries by colonial regimes that fenced off the areas and ordered local people to stay out. Now conservationists are finding that a more inclusive approach to running the parks and seeking the expertise of indigenous communities that live around the parks can help protect them. The effects of worsening weather conditions in national parks due to climate change should also not be ignored, experts said. A recent study conducted in Kruger National Park linked extreme weather events to the loss of plants and animals, unable to cope with the drastic conditions and lack of water due to longer dry spells and hotter temperatures. Drought has seriously threatened species like rhinos, elephants, and lions as it reduces the amount of food available. More intensive management of parks and removing fences that prevent species from migrating to less drought-prone areas are important first steps to protecting wildlife. Thank you for watching this documentary on the threats faced by Africa's national parks. Let's work together to advocate for sustainable conservation and development practices.